Okay, so if we'll think about from the top down, from the widest, it's location. So how can we maximize for our purchase price? Let's say I had 800 grand. For 800,000, what is the best locations I can buy into for that purchase price? That's going to give me maximum capital growth and maximum rental yield. So that's step one, understanding what locations. Then you do your location research. Then there's about 5 locations with that budget that's going to give me this amount of capital growth, this amount of rental return. And then it's about, do I want an asset which I can add value to or something which is more modern and I don't have to touch? Once you understand that and you've got the location research done, then it's about sourcing properties in that marketplace. So let's say I found an opportunity. I want to know if this property in this market is worth buying, and I got to do the due diligence checks. So before we enter the property, what I want to look at, I want to look at things that I can't control with the property. So it's proximity to housing commission. Are there any DAs that are approved where there's going to be construction that will impact my property? Is it close or subject to risk from bushfires or flooding? The land that the property sits on, is there acid sulfates? Is there mine subsidence? Or is there anything that could obstruct my property from future development or that would create havoc to the property, easements, etc.? Then when we look at the actual property itself, we want to look at the first thing I look at is the floor plan. With the floor plan, what do you want to look at? Bedroom sizes for investment is really important. Ideally, we want to stick to a bedroom size that's 3 by 3 on average. Could be slightly more, could be slightly less, like a 2.8 times 3.3, that works. Within the bedrooms, we want to ideally have built-in wardrobes, or if they're not in there, we need to add them for rental. So ideally, we want good bedroom sizes, a good floor plan flow where there's enough space to have furniture and natural light coming through. For a 4-bedroom property, 2 baths, we want to have is, ideally you want 2 baths whenever you buy an investment. You don't want a 3-1-2, you want a 3-2-2, and with a 4-bed, you want a 4-2-2. The extra bathroom is going to give you extra rental. We also want to have ideally double car park lock up. And then we also want to look at the land size. So with land size, we want to have the property ideally have a level block. If it's not level, we don't really want it to be downward sloping because some of the Asian buyers, when you go to sell, have things like feng shui or people don't like downward sloping blocks. But if it is an irregular shaped block, we need to make sure that there's a reason why we'd consider it. So is it that we can add value to the block? Is that we want to make sure that negative we can turn into a positive, as opposed if it is otherwise we want something that's regular. Now with the block size, there's no point having a big block of dirt if you're going to have a small property, because your actual cash flow per square meter is smaller. And now with things like land tax, if you're not adding value to the residual land, it's actually not in your favor to have a big parcel of land and a small property. We want to have kind of a medium ratio unless we're adding value. So that's some of the diligence checks we look at. So when we're inside the property, we want to look at the standard. I'd always recommend getting a building and pest report. What's the property's positioning in terms of sunlight? What's the compass look like? Is it a north facing rear, etc.? The land, how the land sits. So that's a lot of the due diligence checks I'd always recommend getting. If you're going through an apartment, always look at the strata report, get a conveyancer to read through that on your behalf. Look at the things like the sinking fund and the capital works fund to see if there's any ongoing repairs or concerns. For a property, they're your main points of due diligence you want to check.